Hello.
Hello, hello.
Start video. It's a little different.
Hi, everyone. I know I just messaged with Jenny and she said she was going to be on, so we will wait for Jenny. I have not heard from Tanley, so.
Okay. I don't show anyone in the waiting room at this moment, but we can chill for a couple minutes. That's no problem.
You sure take good minutes, Matt.
I did a better job of capturing the actual content of the meeting this go around. I think technically we really only have to capture decisions that are made, but of course it's always better for the record to get more than that. So
Yeah, when I do the planning commission notes, I tend to take down everything. So I let Taylor figure out what she wants to take out.
oh, here's Jenny. Okay, we'll let her in and then we'll get going.
Good.
All right, Jenny, are you there? Oh, she's connecting to audio, it says.
And now she's muted. Jenny, are you there?
Hi, I can hear you.
All
Okay,
right.
perfect. Yeah.
I'm trying to get it to the grid screen. I don't remember how to do that. Sorry.
If you're on a desktop or laptop for that matter, it's in the upper right. It says view. If you want the grid, then you select gallery. Is that helpful at all or no?
No, I'm not seeing anything. This is super weird. I'm on just like a I don't know what to call it, a device. And I'm in my daughter's room. If it looks like I'm in a 17-year-old's room, that's true.
We can't see you at this point.
Oh, really? Okay, let me fix that.
There you are.
Okay. So yeah. A lot of angst.
My daughter's only 12 and I can relate.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm failing with gallery, but that's okay. I'll just see who's speaking, I guess.
Okay.
Okay. Awesome.
Ready,
Well,
ready when
yeah.
you are, Kim.
Yeah. Well, first off, I'm excited. I see mostly everyone's face. The only person we're missing is Tanley. So this is a big success here. Thank you everyone for taking the time to be here. So it is, I guess, call to order. So it is, what are we, Monday, September 11th, 2021 at 5:04 p.m.
October.
October,
Yeah,
not September.
Oh, October. Oh, yep. Losing track of time here. Matt, I take it we don't have anyone in the waiting room for public comment. Is that correct?
I will double check. No, we do not.
Okay. And I forgot to mention that. So Tanley is not here. I know they're in the middle of some tight deadlines as far as moving right now. And so I'm hoping to get her on the next call if there's the virtual options. She said she could be there. So, okay. So
Is
no
that
public.
moving their business or their home?
Their home. So I guess they're
Is that
building a
moving
tiny,
their-
yeah. I guess they're building a tiny home and they've got some deadlines before it has to be like completed and like moved to its location. So she
Not
says,
if their business is staying.
yeah. Yeah, business is still there. Okay, so the reviewing and adopting of the minutes from our September 13th meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review those?
I've got them here. Hopefully you can see them right now.
So if somebody wants to motion to approve those minutes,
I make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
and Taylor seconds them. All right, so I have a first and a second. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay.
Aye.
All
Okay.
right. Minutes approved.
That looked unanimous to me.
So next up, and sorry if I feel like it jumped very quickly from like one item to the next. I just know we've got limited time in these meetings. So to move forward, Jenny, I know you mentioned to me that you might need to dip out early here. So you are first on the agenda as far as sort of an update on the passport project. Last meeting, we had talked about hopefully sort of establishing more of a budget before this call. So this floor is yours. Yeah. And you are on mute.
You're muted.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so I have been in communication with Marissa, who is Bennett's contact person for printing and design. And she definitely has relevant experience doing this kind of stuff. And this is one of those things where it's like, this would be so nice if we were in person. But I have this passport that literally called a passport that they did back in 2015. However, it's very different. It was very much like take this, like it was one day in November. I think it was probably the shop small day after Thanksgiving. And they went around and they solicited involvement from businesses. And so, but it was like, everybody take this passport and go around this one day and get all these deals at all these places. And then once you do that, then I'm not even actually clear if there was like a grand prize. I don't think there was. It was just like, turn this in when you're done and then they'll sign it. I'm not really sure what the incentive was there, but anyway, it was just like, they went around to businesses similarly to our approach, is that they went around and they got like participation, they got deals from people. There was 20% off and there was like free this and that or whatever. But it was one day, which, what I like about ours is that it's an ongoing thing. It could take as long as you want it to take, sort of thing. Whereas like a small town like ours, if there's one day to do multiple restaurants, you're not going to do them all. You're just not, right? So like, but it's great. It's great for what it was. And it's definitely a good example of what she can do. And so, my sort of feedback to her was like, this is, I think, exactly sort of what we're looking for as far as the structure. This is like a cardstock border, cover, and full color and beautiful. And then inside is more budgety, thin paper, it is full color inside. Whereas we talked about doing black and white to save money. She has the stance that doing color is not actually that much more significantly expensive. So I am yet to get numbers from her as far as what the printing cost would be for black and white versus color and how much per page. So I apologize for that, but I feel like we can move forward with this project regardless of that, because if we don't go with her, we go with someone else. But anyway, it feels like we're on track as far as like making this happen. Taylor and I have been in communication. It's really us, Taylor and I, for the next few weeks, getting, doing all the footwork and approaching all the businesses, soliciting participation, getting buy-in, and then getting hopefully all the information to Marissa and or another printer designer by November 1st, so that we can get this thing out there by Shop Small Friday after Thanksgiving. What I don't have right now is numbers, so that sucks. But otherwise, as far as like timeline goes, I feel like we're on track for getting this thing going. Marissa thought originally that she was going to have to do all the footwork of it. And that was like, no, I think we're going to do that. We can go approach the businesses. There's no need for us to pay somebody to do that. Taylor and I can do that. Taylor and I are going to meet this week and figure out how we're going to divvy up businesses and just hit them hard and hopefully get some participation. And yeah, so that's that. I
Jenny,
feel like this.
I can be a third wheel on that
Cool.
outing as well.
That's great. That's awesome. Yeah, because it is going to be a lot of work. And especially if we go and like the owner or decision maker is not there, you know, I mean, like ideally we get buy-in at the first contact. And if that's hard to do because they're not there or they're hard to contact, then that's going to be the barrier. Right. So thank you, Matt. That's great. I feel like this, sorry, again, I can't even see myself. So this probably is so haphazard, but this brochure that we have, this downtown Estacada, I feel like it's a really good guide as far as like just what the downtown is and like what the businesses are that we're going to approach. And then, you know, Taylor and Matt and I, we can kind of use that as a guide to make sure we're hitting all those up. We have, as far as what we can take to the businesses when we go there. We have the example of this passport. We have the example of the sort of draft that I've created. We have the example of the McMiniman's passport, you know, that people are somewhat familiar with too. I've created a spreadsheet that has sort of like a columns of what we might need to track our progress as far as like the business and like confirming the address and the phone number and the website and hours and all that. And like whether or not they're in or out or not sure or no contact, that kind of thing. So we can kind of have a streamlined system to be effective with our time so that we can really get this thing done by the end of October. So anyway, I don't know, I guess my report is just that it feels like we're on track and it feels a little fast paced, but it also feels like doable because, you know, we could take 3 weeks to do something or we could take 3 months to do something. Right. So. Yeah.
Jenny, I've got up on the screen right now that half sheet flyer, which we can also bring.
Yep, exactly. For sure. It's perfect.
So like you said, if there's not a decision maker available, hopefully we can leave that and they can upload their stuff online. It's easy. Yep. I can do a form so they can just type out their message, like a description of their business. And what was the other thing that we were going to ask them for? Their logo, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it'd be best probably to just actually route everyone to the form so they can upload their logo that way.
For sure. Yeah. I think that's one thing that Marissa said was really one of the biggest challenges with this kind of stuff is like locating the high res, you know, image, because people who aren't in that field or aren't as aware of how important that is to have a high resolution image. Right. Will often copy and paste and copy and paste and copy and paste to where like the publication image is so dumbed down and poor quality. So if we can try to, you know, say, okay, well, this person, you know, did your menu, let's like, maybe you could email them and grab that image, you know. So it's going to be a lot of that of sort of like, you know, hand holding through that process of like, let's figure out where your high resolution image is, you know. Yeah. So yeah. We'll
probably be scrambling at the last minute for a few and creating some of our own.
For sure.
One way I think to move this forward, Jenny, without maybe a budget right now is to make sort of a contingent decision. So in other words, you know, the board can make a decision right now to approve the expenditure up to a certain amount. If it exceeds that, then we'll unfortunately have to put on the brakes. But if it's below that, then with that conditional decision, we'll just move ahead.
Yeah, that's smart.
Bennett is signaling.
No, I was just going to recommend $3,000.
Aha, okay. Anyone?
And would that include both printing costs and whatever prize packages?
Total budget. Matt, you're kind of sounding like you don't think that that's a doable amount of money. Do you think less?
Oh no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to imply anything with my facial expressions or whatever.
Okay, sorry.
Up on there. I think 3,000 for a total project budget feels pretty good. We may want to maybe come in a little below that for printing costs, so we have some left over for prizes and whatnot.
Right, prizes were in my, that part of the budget that I was talking about.
Okay, so what do y'all think for just the printing portion then? Or Bennett, what do you think for the printing portion?
I'd like to see if Marissa can come in with the total project. Jenny, how many do you want to have printed?
I mean, I don't even know. I'm like stabbing in the dark here. What would you guys suggest?
You know, my experience has been with every brochure or everything that I've ever had printed. I always print too many. They don't get used. They're sitting in a box someplace. And so I'd say probably 500 is probably more than enough, but what do you guys think?
Yeah, I was even gonna
I
say
agree with what
250.
Bennett said.
Connie,
Yeah,
what'd you say?
Yeah. Well, I agree with Bennett. I've always overprinted more than I needed. So, I think 500 is a pretty good figure with the number of people we now have in town, number of developments. I think that's a pretty good place to start.
How about this? If we print 500 and we don't have 500 of them picked up from the various distribution locations within, give it 2 weeks, let's pack them up to some of the churches on Sunday and see if we can get somebody to walk them
Farmers
around some of
market.
the new neighborhoods.
Right.
Yeah, farmers market, is a good place to, the senior center. There's places where we can get the word out, that's for sure.
Yeah.
The library.
So maybe we start at 500, and if for some reason that cost is not in line with our budget, we can always bring that number down to sort of back into our budget. Although I'm willing to bet that the incremental cost of the brochures is probably not a lot. It's it's that front end cost of setup and everything like that.
And if we have 500 and we don't get rid of all of them, you can stand in front of True Value or Harvest Market on a Saturday morning and get rid of stuff really quick.
So a few things I wanted to say too that I kind of neglected earlier was just I feel like, and I guess I'm asking for what the feedback is on this, but I feel like our approach should be that we're not expecting businesses to give anything away for free. We just want people to come get a stamp, and with the incentive being that when they complete it, they get some grand prize or entered into a grand raffle at the end. So I just want to be clear that that's kind of our messaging with that.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really critical to the success of this project.
In order to get participation, that we're not expecting people to give things away. Yeah. Because like this passport that like Marissa did for this one day event, like everybody gave stuff away. Everybody was like, buy one, get one half off, get 20% off. But it was one day, right? So it didn't feel as much of a commitment as if it's this open-ended thing for people to be like, buy one, get one free. That's a lot for a business to give away over a unknown amount of period of time, right? So I think that our messaging should be no giveaways. It's just that they just come in the door and then they're working towards this end prize, right? The other thing is we need to talk about what that end prize is. That's like going to be a key part of our marketing for this too, is like, how are we going to handle that? Is it going to be that, there's 3 winners? How many winners are there going to be? What are the grand prizes going to be? And then the other thing I wanted to bring up was just the logistics, Matt, of your flyer that you made. How do we go about getting hard copies of that for Taylor and I and you to pass out to businesses? So do we, are you going to take care of the printing of that at the city, or do I need to go print it at ArtSmith and submit a reimbursement form? Let me know how that works.
I can print and cut those here. I've got one of those guillotine machines.
Cool. Okay.
That's not an issue. What was the other thing you mentioned? Oh, we do need to kind of decide on a prize scenario. We talked about 2 different things. If I remember correctly, either everyone is entered into a drawing for something big and awesome, or or everybody is eligible for something much less awesome.
Right.
Or a hybrid of the two.
So does the city have any boxes, or does anybody have any boxes of stuff left over from, I know you guys got like 1 million water bottles at some point. Do you have any boxes up in the attic of stuff left over from other things?
I think, yes,
We
there
have
may
a lot
not
of
be.
uncorked stuff.
Yeah, there's uncorked glasses, although we may be preserving those for a future uncorked, I suppose. I think there are water bottles. I don't know how many off the top of my head.
Because I think what we talked about a while back ago was to give everybody some little tiny thing. And then the passport book that they turn in is entered into the drawing for the 1 to 3 big things. Am I right or wrong about that?
I like that. Yes, that's what I remember too. And I like that.
That was my understanding as well.
So if 3,000 is our total project cost, how much do we want to allocate toward prizes? And then we kind of know how much we have for printing.
You know, how about one grand prize, which has a value of like $300, and then 2 other sort of kind of grand prizes that have a value of $100 each, like a gift certificate to a restaurant or something like that. And then the last one would, and if it is a gift certificate to a restaurant, please let's have it be a local one.
Yeah.
And then the last one, or maybe if it's a gift certificate to a restaurant, you could do more. That you could do like 4 of them for $50 each or something. And then a whole bunch of, the rest of, say, let's see, that's 300, 400, 500, another $500 allocated to the little things that we're going to give out, if we don't have enough little things around already.
Yeah, I kind of doubt we have 500 water bottles. I think we have 50 water bottles or something.
Well, I mean, and it can also we can also market it that way, right? Like first come, first serve, or like as supplies, like limited supply or something. So people have some sense of urgency, but like there will be some people that take this and they start the process, but they never finish the process, right? And that's not a total loss. They're getting into some businesses, so the reality is, even if we print 500 of these passports, we're not necessarily going to get 500 completed turned in, right?
Right.
Yeah. But I definitely agree that there's something to, like, if you just put a cap, like the first 50 people to submit their completed passport, get this, whatever that little prize is, I think would be, an easier way to manage the budget, as opposed to, I guess, handing out a little prize to every single person who turns into a passport, just in case it turned out to be 500 people completing a passport, which I don't see happening, but it's still a possibility. So,
Jenny, what are you thinking the time frame is on this? Are we gonna launch it after Christmas and go for a month or 60 days?
No. So if we can approach every single business within the next 3 weeks and get some sort of response of in or out, and get that information to Marissa and or another designer printer by November 1st, then my understanding is we should be able to launch this by the Shop Small Friday following Thanksgiving. And I think that was one of our goals. And my memory is that if we weren't able to do that, it's okay. We could push it back to January. But I think that if we can keep the momentum going, we can be on track for that.
but I guess, is there the other question in there of how, once this thing is launched, let's hope it's for the Small Business Day. How long is the program going to go for? Do people have 3 months to complete their passport? Do they have an eternity to complete their passport? Kind of what's the timeline or deadline for submitting a completed passport?
I mean, I think if we have a limit on prizes, then that kind of, polices itself, right? And if somebody comes in 2045 with a completed passport and they're expecting a prize, it's like, sorry, prizes are gone, but like, that's awesome that you have seen all of our businesses in town, I mean, I don't know. I don't think we need to necessarily, I mean, that's my thinking.
And we're gonna take the, sorry, I may be confusing myself here. Is there a time constraint for when you can turn in your passport to be included in the drawing? Or is that just for the order of
good point.
completion?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we have to have a timeline for that, for sure. That makes sense.
I think a deadline is, so one of two things. You could say deadline is, 45 days from whenever launch is, or 60 days from ever launch is, or we run out of prizes, whichever comes first.
That sounds good. Do we not still need a deadline for the drawing though?
Yeah, that's why we put the 60 or 45 days on there.
Okay, so same timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So they could still hand it in within that, say it's 45 days. They could still hand it in. They're just not going to walk out with a water bottle or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unless we have some left. I mean, if we, if we only
Right.
get, if we only get so many completed but we're doing the raffle, right? Like the raffle's happening on this day, but we still have a bunch of water bottles left. So people turn them in after that. That's why they can get a water bottle. They're just not going to be entered for the raffle.
Right, exactly.
A small tangent here. If it turns out that we don't have very many water bottles or none at all, one idea, I know that tote bags are so ubiquitous, but I'm never bummed out when I get a tote bag because I can use it for groceries over and over and over again.
I love tote bags.
Yeah. So that's an idea. I know we can order those in mass for pretty cheap, and we could put our brand on it to get the DEC logo out there as well.
We should do something way cooler than that though. We should do like a Bigfoot and then do like DEC like small in the corner, I mean, really, I mean, we should follow NPR's, modeling and just do something that's more of an incentive, right? Like nobody wants a tote with DEC on it, but if it's got something cool and then DEC in the corner, then we're good.
Okay. You got me.
So then if we're picking physical items for these prizes, that means people are going to have to physically come in, turn in their passport and pick up the physical item, as opposed to, I mean, I guess looking at what Parks and Recreation have done, they've just mailed a gift certificate to people. And people have just submitted photo proof that they completed the thing. So is it appropriate to have people yeah, I'm assuming it would be picking up items at City Hall.
Yeah, I hate to burden our front office staff with that, but in my office, Taylor and I, our city planner, both sit here on any given day. And I don't think it's too big of an issue to just keep a stash of stuff over here and to deal with it out of our office so that the front office isn't burdened with it. Hopefully I don't live to regret that.
So for the grand prizes, or at least the 1 to 3 prizes for this raffle drawing, would it be reasonable to ask businesses for donations or contributions to those prizes, as opposed to paying for those prizes?
I'm against that. And here's the reason why, is that the thing that I think is really wonderful about this is that all we're asking businesses for is their logo. And right now we're doing all the work, we're paying all the money. It's sign up for this. This is a completely free thing. We're not asking you to do anything except for be excited about it. It's a really good, I don't know, PR thing for the DEC to be carrying the entire burden of this project.
Great. I mean,
Yeah.
I appreciate that feedback, especially you guys as business owners. So,
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Bennett on that. We get asked for donations all the time. I'm sure Bennett does too. I'm sure all the businesses do, but
Every day.
oh yeah, it's constant. It's constant. And especially with, you know, all the hardships that our community has faced with fires and you know, everything. So so yeah, so we give a lot. And I do think that DEC has the budget to carry this burden. So I totally back up what Bennett just said.
We're at 30 minutes. Kim, can you maybe have us make some decisions and then we'll keep the
yeah,
meeting?
that sounds great, Matt. Thank you. So it sounds like the biggest decision was just kind of giving a thumbs up on that initial $3,000 figure.
I think so. I guess you can structure it any different way as far as the decision goes. Either, hey, passport subcommittee, as long as you can do the whole project under $3,000, we don't care how you
Get there.
shuffle around that pricing. And that might be the simplest way to do it if everyone's comfortable with it.
Okay, so would we have to do a motion for that, or we just looking for any opposition on?
I think a motion and an opportunity to vocalize any opposition would be great, and then a vote. Just whenever it deals with expenditures, especially 4-digit ones, good to just put that on the record.
So can I get a motion on the floor for that $3,000 figure?
Yeah, I'll do a motion for a budget up to $3,000, doesn't need any further approval.
Can I get a second?
Put the word total in there, total budget.
Noted.
I'll second.
All right,
I'll
so I have a
second.
first and a second. All in favor, raise your hand. And I was gonna say all opposed, but no one opposed. All right.
Sorry, who was the second on the motion? I was busy staring at my paper.
Connie.
Okay.
I was Matt.
So Jenny, are there any more decisions that you need from our end to kind of keep this project moving forward?
I don't think so. I think I guess there's some ambiguity about what the grand prizes and sort of sub grand prizes will be, but I don't think we have to decide that right now. I think that when is our next meeting? It's before the Shop Small Friday, right? So
Yeah, it'd be right now it's tentatively for November. November 1st. So
okay, so I feel like we can get this project rolling and check in then, and we can make a decision about the actual prizes at that meeting. So that sounds fine to me, if that works for everybody else.
Okay, so maybe the little passport subcommittee could bring a proposal ready to approve it to next meeting.
Okay.
okay, sounds great. Jenny, thank you so much for all your legwork on this. I know there's a lot of work that goes into that. So, okay, so next up on the agenda, and Jenny, I know you do need to leave early here, so I'm hoping you can at least hang around for this one discussion that I've been meaning to have the last 2 meetings and we just haven't found the time, is sort of a discussion around events. So obviously, like in our plan, you know, we looked at the promotions side of thing and marketing and how to get people downtown or at least spread the word about downtown. And we discussed a bunch of different project ideas that, you know, we wrote up there on the whiteboard. And then we voted for like what those top 3 projects are for where we should focus. And those, you know, the top 3 ended up being this passport program, email campaigns, and social media. Events was one of those things that was on the list as far as ways to sort of promote the downtown area, but it didn't make the top 3. However, events has been a big component of the DEC in the past. And so I need to kind of have a conversation with you guys around where we see events fitting into the DEC, whether that is still something that we feel needs to be a part of our promotional strategy. And if so, kind of how that's going to fit into the plan. So I guess I'm going to just open this one up for conversation about how people feel about events and whether it's something that we need to dedicate resources and time to. And if so, next steps would be figuring out kind of how to work that one into the plan. So feelings on event.
I think we need to, I think we need to have events to keep ourselves and our DEC out there. I'm pretty sure it's a given that we will do the 4th of July parade every year. Is that
I
one
mean,
event we
that's,
can count on doing?
yeah, that one's written into code.
Correct. Yeah.
That
So
one's taken care of.
yeah. So 4th of July sort of automatically ends up in there.
Well, and I've had several people ask if we're going to have another Encore. That was a very popular event. Yeah, I think we should be doing events.
Recognizing that I am staff and not a commission member, I would say from a staff perspective, I'm in favor of events with maybe one, I mean, I don't want to say condition, but I guess we can call it that for the sake of conversation. You know, summertime street festivals are kind of a dime a dozen throughout the Portland region, and I'm not opposed to them. I think Uncorked is a fantastic event, and I feel like it kind of raised the bar in terms of kind of like the class and quality of what a street fair in Estacada can be. So I don't mean to come across as saying I'm opposed to Uncorked, because I'm not, but I would love to see if there is a decision at the board level here to continue with events, to have whatever sub delegation there is, to kind of think outside the box and to be ambitious about what a new event or events might look like that could really move the needle and be a benefit to downtown businesses. But to do events for the sake of events, I don't know that anyone's promoting that, but I'm certainly opposed to doing events for the sake of events. But if they're furthering the DEC's mission and supporting the business district, not only as a place of commerce, but culture and community, you know, all of those things we talk about in our documents, then that would be my hope. So sorry for being long-winded, but that's kind of where I'm coming at it from.
That's what I'm asking for.
So I have some things to say as a DEC member, and then I have a couple of comments to make as a business owner on Broadway. So as a DEC member, first of all, we have the 4th of July is written into our charter, and one other event. So in order for us to say, okay, we're not going to do that one other event, we need to go back to the city council and ask them to reverse that. So second thing is that that when we were talking about marketing, and I think that events fall under marketing, we decided that we were going to put our energy toward some other things. And I think actually we just kind of took it for granted that we would continue doing events and that we were talking about other things. So the thing that we have to remember is that we have limited resources, and that was the reason for prioritizing. So if we have the resources to do events, then great. If we don't have the resources to do events, I mean, if you're looking at us, everybody that's showing up on this screen, we've a lot of us have businesses to run. It's impossible for us to be volunteers during the course of those events. And so that means that somebody has to be in charge of the events. Somebody has to be able to go out and find other volunteers. It's just a point of consideration that we have to have. And then one thing I want to always keep in mind is that the reason that I'm so on board for the passport is because it's something that hasn't been tried. And I think that for in years past, events were largely what the EDC considered that they were doing. And so the passport, on the other hand, is a new thing that will have a couple of months, a month or so of exposure to new businesses, whereas an event has 1 day. And then the last thing that I will say as a DEC member is that for us to remember 2 things that we've read in the Main Street materials. One is that events were good on one hand and bad on the other, in that sometimes they took so much energy to do the events that other things were not moved forward. And that they're 1 day. And so it's like you do a whole bunch of work and then you get 1 day of exposure. And so you really have to kind of measure as to whether or not that 1 day has as much impact as, say, advertising or the passport that we're doing. Okay, so now I'm going to flip over to business owner on Broadway. So there are some people think that I am against events, and that is not actually true. What I'm against is shutting down Broadway during my most profitable season for an entire day to do an event. So if we can do, I mean, if I said to you, hey, why don't we shut down Main Street and do for an entire day from 8 a.m. till 10 p.m., let's shut down Main Street. So the businesses that are not going to have access to their usual clientele are True Value, the Mexican restaurant, whatever is on that street is not going to have any business coming in during the time that you're setting up or tearing down. That is catastrophic to my business. And when you finally do open up the event on Broadway, when in years past, you're charging people $15 to get to my front door, regardless of whether or not. And then the last thing is you're giving away samples of alcohol and food, which is what I sell. Every weekend in the summertime is critical to me to make enough money so that I can pay my staff and keep them employed during the winter time when I'm not making as much money. So it's a super, super big thing to me, which is why I think that we, the DEC, could be heroes by actually figuring out a place to have events that doesn't require shutting down the street on which I do business and Taylor does business and Julia does business. So there, those are my comments.
Thank you, Bennett. Taylor, do you have opinions or any input on the events? Yeah.
Gosh, I have a lot of opinions, but I think it's important that we do events, but like Matt said, I don't think that it needs to be something that we're just doing to do. Like if there are 2 or 3 events that we really want to focus on that are really going to impact all of the businesses downtown and get the most amount of people, I think we should do those. And I think that that's like, I guess when I got involved with this, what I thought a lot of our energy was going to go into was planning events to get people downtown. And so my focus was like, I want to make the businesses downtown better and have more people in them. So I think that events are fantastic for that. And anytime there's ever been an event downtown, especially when I was new to town, I went down there and was a part of it. And I found businesses that way. So in fact, Bennett, I found your business that way. So I think we should be doing events. I just don't think we need to spend a lot of time doing, 27 of them. And the parking for me is not an issue. I don't sell alcohol. I don't sell food. When there's no parking downtown, people walk to my store. I mean, it hasn't been an issue for me personally. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's my opinion on it.
Great, thanks, Taylor. Julie, do you have an opinion on events?
I do. Well, we have the summer celebration. Who does that? Is it the Arts Commission? Okay, so we've got that going on in July. And then, or excuse me, is it June or July? Well, anyways, during the summer. And then we've got the 4th of July parade. And then I think if we're doing something for the holidays, like something like this, I don't know. I just think that's enough events for the year. Think it's good just to have a couple of them or one and just really put our time and energy into it. As far as parking, yeah, I can see where it could be an issue for people who are disabled, who can't, walk far. But I've never had an issue with it. I've never had an issue with anyone, saying that they had an issue getting to my store. Most people will walk. Another idea is it Zorbas Street that's right behind Broadway? I always thought that would be an excellent area to have vendors, art vendors. It would definitely benefit the food carts. It would allow us to have the parking in the front. But once again, it just depends on what events that we're going to do. I mean, if you're worried about the summer celebration and that taking up parking, I mean, I don't know what we have and say with that. But as far as doing a holiday event like we're kind of doing right here, I mean, what other events are we looking at planning, I guess is my question, other than those that we are doing right now?
Historically, it's been Uncorked. It's been the 4th of July parade. It's been Harvest Festival. It's been, to some extent, though less so, the tree lighting on the City Hall grounds. And then before the pandemic, there was going to be an attempt to create sort of a springtime event so that it wasn't all just concentrated at summer and holidays. Yeah, and then at one point, well, I'll withhold that comment. But again, I guess I would just say events don't have to just be centered on a holiday or some other theme. They could be designed specifically to meet some sort of objective, and it doesn't need to involve a holiday or some other
Right.
celebratory thing.
Well, this is my opinion. I mean, I think that we just really need to focus in letting the community, the people who are moving in, letting us know where we're at. I mean, it's great having these events things, but what about advertising the businesses, like featuring them in, within the water bills or whatever mailings that the city does, or I don't know. I just think that if you're to plan an event, it's definitely going to take a year. And so if we're going to decide that we do any events, then I think that's something that we should decide now and plan for it. But I'm sorry, I think I'm just rambling, but to really answer your question about the parking, I don't think it's an issue, but I know that we have other alternatives that we can do events where, where we can provide some parking and still have an event where it's certain areas are sectioned off. And that's it.
Great, thank you. Yep, thank you, Julie. Yeah. Yep, Jenny.
Sorry, I think what Matt was originally saying is a good way to sort of focus too, of just like that it's not that we're not having events just for the sake of having an event, but like how are we sort of lifting and celebrating the culture and the history of our downtown, which is really our like core mission, right, as in this commission. And so like, for example, we talked about in the past the tree lighting, how we could sort of morph that into being sort of a artisan homesteading craft fair, and really trying to tap into the industry that we have in our city and celebrating that, rather than having it just be a tree lighting, so we can sort of marry the two things, I think, where we're maybe having it be around an event or holiday, but then it's also like really lifting the, awareness of what we have to offer in our town, and then as far as the parking stuff goes, it's not unheard of to have people park somewhere else and then walk over to an event. I mean, we do it all the time at Portland Saturday Market, right? We have to park somewhere and then walk a few blocks over to the actual Saturday Market. So, I think if we can maybe think about that, as far as, supporting our local businesses that are having a hardship with this, is, where can we maybe designate some parking? And then we have some empty lots, right, by the car wash and stuff, by the fire station, where we could have people park and then just walk over to the event and maybe not block off the whole street. But how that would look as far as all the kids' crafts and stuff, I'm not sure the logistics of that, because that is pretty cool to have so much space for kids' crafts. So, I think there's definitely needs to be more discussion around the logistics around that. But so anyway, those are my thoughts about that.
Great, thank you, Jenny. So what I'm hearing from, I think, this entire group is that there is a general consensus that like there is a place for events and what we do in the DEC. But it's just something that we need to be kind of more mindful of how these events kind of impact our businesses, how we can either work with the businesses to make sure that these events kind of benefit them or promote them or don't hinder their business. Like Bennett, for example, that, that's something I would not have thought about when you're closing the streets for Uncorked and charging people admission to the event. I can understand it's a problem if they can't get to your event without paying admission. But also something to think about, like what events we're doing and how they support the mission of the DEC. And then just how these events support our businesses in general and the community and culture of Estacada. So what I would be proposing, especially since events are very, very resource intensive, would be to form a subcommittee that was dedicated to just events, and to have that subcommittee put their minds together and propose a list of events that we could consider doing each year and bring that forward to the board to like kind of review and approve. How I would propose like kind of moving forward with this. Excuse me. But I definitely think that there needs to be some minds that put some sort of like heavy thought into like, what are the purpose of each event that we're proposing, and how do they affect the players, and how do we include our local businesses? But something more sort of dedicated to a subcommittee to do that legwork first and to do that brainstorming.
And I think that's a good summary. The only other thing I would add to it is I hear a common concern as well of like, how are we going to pull off events? There's only 7 of us, but you guys have only known the DEC in its current form, but previously there were committees of, in the case of events and promotions, 10+ people that were gathering together frequently to plan and execute events. It wasn't the board that was shouldering that whole burden. It was a subcommittee, a promotions committee that was executing those events. So just keep that in mind, that if you sign up to say, yes, I'm in support of events, that doesn't necessarily mean this group of people on this call is going to be, shouldering that whole responsibility. I think we lost Bennett. I gotta check the waiting room here. I don't know if she got disconnected.
Kim,
Yeah, Connie.
Kim, I would be happy to be on that committee.
Yep, you would be the natural one to designate as kind of the chair or the lead of that committee. So
Can I ask a question?
yeah.
So is this committee to work on creating more events or deciding that the current events that we're doing that we aren't going to do, or what?
So I guess what I would be proposing is this committee would be sort of tasked with looking at the list of current events that we have, which would sort of like include, well, in addition to 4th of July, which is sort of in our charter, would include like the Uncorked event, would include like Harvest Market, would include the Christmas tree lighting ceremony. And they would, I guess, like take a critical look at all of those events and figure out whether those are things that we should be considering again for 2022. And then
Okay.
also possibly proposing additional events to consider. So,
Okay.
Additional, or perhaps saying we're going to discontinue this one, but that's because we want to do this one instead, and here's why. Yeah.
Okay.
so I guess any other comments before we maybe make a motion on, do we even need Matt, do we need like a motion or something for creating
I don't
this?
think we need a vote here, but we should at least form some consensus with some head nods that I guess we do want to have events, but that we want to have maybe Connie assemble a subcommittee that can do some planning work before our next meeting to make a proposal of what 2022 events might or could look like.
So in the very beginning of planning this, didn't we sign up for what subcommittees or what we wanted to do? Does anyone remember recalling doing that?
Yeah, yes, we did. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Matt.
No, you go.
Yeah, Julie, yes. And I realized like we're kind of redoing some of what's already been done. We did kind of assign people to subcommittees. And then we had some turnover as far as people leaving the commission. And then we had some new people entering the commission. And then we also sort of stepped back and started this whole planning process.
Okay.
So those subcommittees kind of took a backseat. They haven't completely, I guess, been wiped out, but they no longer like formally exist right now. But they are there simmering on the back burner.
Okay. I think I might have been asked to be on that committee, so I'd be more than happy to help with that.
Great.
Okay, Julie.
So, and it sounds like Taylor, you were also interested in the event side of things. Would you want to stay on the promotions? Well, we'll call it promotions or events committee. And it's something I'm interested in as well. Jenny, were you interested in, would you be interested in serving on that committee?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. Yes, I think so. It depends on the time commitment, I guess. I don't know.
I
Yeah.
think that's for me too. Like I'm
Yeah.
definitely really interested in helping with that, but like I do have 3 kids who are all in sports and all the things, like I just don't have that much extra time, but I do want to be involved.
Right.
Great. So do we want to get something, I guess, a meeting on the calendar right now to keep the events conversation going and meet as a committee, not a commission, but a committee? Or do I just send an email and everyone can send me their availability? I don't know what works anymore for scheduling
Or
things. Connie, sorry.
Kim, I can do a doodle poll. I can do
Okay.
a doodle poll with several different days and times, and I guess my first question for all you folks is evening or afternoon or morning? What works best for most of you? Evening?
Evening.
Okay,
Julie?
okay. I'll send out a doodle poll.
Evenings.
Okay. I can be flexible, Connie. So yeah, a doodle poll sounds great.
Okay.
Okay, and Bennett, sorry, she messaged me to say that she lost her internet connection, and I'm not sure if she's trying to sign back on. Okay.
Hold
Just,
on, she's trying to call here.
oh, okay.
City Hall's Matt. Okay, are you able to phone in or?
So Taylor, next up would be just me asking if you've had any time to
Okay.
put any thought into like a social media strategy or plan.
Last email I sent out.
And no worry, if you have not, that's okay.
It's been a busy few weeks. No, I mean, I have a solid plan just off the top of my head of how to help with social media. And I would say first things first is, Matt, you had said that we needed to have some sort of city password versus like me creating a private Instagram and Facebook account. Like that would need to be something that went through the city. So depending on all of the login situations, it would be really great to have an Instagram account and just to get, you know, random pictures from the different businesses and events that may be going on downtown and just posting about those regularly. And I don't even think it needs to be an everyday kind of post. It's just you know, maybe 3 times a week we post on Instagram, and having some of the businesses send me like their specials or their whatever, and I can post that on the stories on Instagram. I think that's a pretty simple.
Yeah, so I did talk with the powers that be about what the protocol might look like, and I don't think there's an issue with you or anyone else on the commission being like a I forget what the different roles are on a Facebook account page, I should say. But there's some people I think that have the ability to create content, and then there are those that can actually post it. So we would just look to set it up in such a way that whoever is going to be helping out with that has the ability to sort of create the content and tee it up, and then probably myself would be the person who ends up actually clicking the button. But yeah, there's no, we don't need to go above me in terms of like filtering the content before we post it. So in that sense, we can keep it pretty streamlined.
Great. So, okay. So yeah, because there's this email marketing piece, and then there's like kind of the social media piece. And I guess we haven't, or I guess the deadline for those was to sort of launch January 1st. I know it looks like, is Bennett, okay, Bennett just joined us through the phone. So Bennett put together an initial plan for kind of like the email marketing, at least like sort of the steps that we need to consider for that. And I think Taylor, if you look at that, that just lines up a lot with like the social media approach too, because other than trying to figure out distribution lists, I think the content that we would be sharing through email would be very similar to the content we'd be sharing through social media. And so, sorry, I know we don't have a lot of time. So I won't focus a lot on this other than to say this is sitting in everybody's inboxes. And the next thing, I think next meeting, I'm going to designate some time for just brainstorming what type of content we would want to be sharing, both through email and also through social media. And then also thinking about how we can source content from other sources. So we're not having to create it all ourselves. We could sort of piggyback off of what other people are doing. And so I just plan on adding that to the agenda for our November meeting. So something for people to be thinking about. But if you can all take the time to sort of read through that document that Bennett put together, that would be appreciated. So, and if you have any initial feedback, just to email it to me or Bennett.
I think it reflects pretty well the conversation we had last meeting. So anyway, it's just put out in more clear terms than just the scribbles that I was making on the whiteboard.
Yeah, it sort of, yeah, it talks about kind of, yeah, the action steps of sort of like what would need to be done to make this email marketing campaign happen. So
I'll add here, I did reach out to Gloria Polzine, who used to run the Lucky Dog newsletter. And it doesn't seem like it's an impossibility to get a hold of that list, but there was a little bit of resistance, not in a negative way, more of just a like, I'm not so sure about this. So it was kind of interesting. She talked about potentially compensation for the list, but she wasn't saying I want to be compensated, but maybe that the city would contribute to some local charity and then she would hand over the list. I'm not sure I understood why she would want that. Like, I feel like the goodwill of sharing the list would be that we build more community in Estacada, but at any rate, that's where that conversation stands.
How many
No.
does she have subscribed to her?
I actually don't know, but
Thousands,
it's a lot.
hundreds. Hundreds.
Yeah, definitely hundreds.
Yeah.
I think she may have had as many as thousands, but
Yeah.
you know, here's the thing, that list is really old. And it's a good chance that probably, you know, 50% of it would not be current anyway. So if Gloria has reluctance about sharing her list, I think it's okay for us just to march forward.
I also inquired with our front office. We recently, but not unfortunately too far back, started collecting email addresses as part of the registration for a city water account. So we'll have some email addresses through that, but for people who have been, you know, legacy water account holders for years or decades, we probably won't have their emails, but we'll have some more current ones. But that's not all bad because the new folks are the ones we're targeting. So,
And
Okay.
it's okay for us to use the list, Matt,
yes.
as long as we put a disclaimer in. Yeah, okay, great.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be okay. Yeah, I didn't get the official green light, but you know, we're not going to use the list to, you know, sell puppies on the black market. We're going to be building community. So I hope it's going to work out all right.
Yeah, and I also think sort of built into our action steps or our plan was also, I mean, people would be receiving an email saying, hey, you're receiving this email because you are on this list. To opt out, click this button, and then every email moving forward would have the unsubscribe, all the kind of Anti-Spam Act email principle or
Yeah.
email elements there. So okay. All right, we got a few minutes to dedicate towards talking about all the other areas outside of like the marketing and promotions piece that we're really focused on right now. I had put together an email and I don't know if it got sort of lost in the mix because I responded to the wrong email and it had a bad title on it. But I was just talking about sort of using Matt as a resource to do some of the legwork on these goals that we've outlined. And so I want to propose to the committee that we also, like, in addition to our marketing plan, that we start focusing on this community outreach portion that sort of falls under the economic vitality piece. I forget, you know, of the Main Street approach, the 4-point approach. We've got economic vitality, design, organization, and promotion. And so for economic vitality, in the planning process, we had identified that like community outreach was going to be our main goal there. So sort of reaching out to the community and determining what it is that they want from their downtown area, which would in turn help us prioritize like what we are doing in order to sort of like meet their needs and their expectations about what they want from their downtown area. And so I am proposing that we ask Matt to sort of put together what an outreach program could look like and bring that to the board for our November 1st meeting for us to sort of review, modify, and approve. Does that sound fair? Or like a good plan?
Sounds great.
What does Matt think?
Yeah. Thank you for looking out for me, Connie. Kim and I kind of talked offline about this previously. So I'm on board and it's well aligned with my job description as economic development manager. So no issue.
Okay. Good.
I
Great.
think we'd be looking to get input from the community, not only, like you said, Kim, about what they want from downtown, maybe more generally, but to maybe try and gain some insight as well into what type of businesses they would see themselves supporting downtown. And I would try and design any questionnaire in such a way so that it wasn't entirely open-ended, you know, because we're going to get Costco and Safeway and a bowling alley and an amusement park. And unfortunately, none of those things are viable. So I would try and limit it and to a short list of things that are actually viable in a market our size.
I know that we had talked about doing this in multiple formats in order to reach the largest number of people in terms that they were able to respond, different types of folks were able to respond. So do we see ourselves doing any sort of town hall meeting around this?
I don't, oh, sorry, Jenny. I know. Yeah.
Well, I just want to say that, yeah, I remember us talking about trying to diversify the communication with this so that we could reach the broadest, you know, portion of our community. Town hall to me feels like the most restrictive, most barrier ridden approach towards that. Not that it isn't valid and that we couldn't do it, but I feel like when I think of diversifying the way we communicate and seek participation with this it's you know, it's snail mail and email and social media, you know. Town hall isn't, not that we can't do it, but that feels like a very small portion of the community that would show up for something like that.
And I know this is something, so what I would be like asking Matt to do would also be sort of like propose the different ways to collect this information or the different ways to consider it. So then on November 1st, we could then kind of give that feedback that Jenny just provided there about the different things to consider. So spend time talking about those, the different avenues to get the information. Yeah. So it sounds like Matt, everyone, I think we've all got the thumbs up as far as sort of Matt moving forward with that. Does that sound good?
Yeah, I'll try and put together sort of an action step type document that's sufficiently detailed but succinct, similar to what Bennett's done with the other action step document there. So yeah, I can have that ready for November 1st.
All right, so, okay, so next up on the agenda is looking at the letter that you drafted for sending to the downtown property owners regarding the next phase or the revitalization grant. And I know that was in a few of the attachments. Has everyone had a chance to review that?
I got it on the screen here to refresh people's memories. Should I do a quick 30-second reminder of what this is?
That would be great. Excuse me.
Okay.
Sorry, I keep coughing into the.
So one of the advantages of being a formal Main Street organization as opposed to just a local nonprofit doing good is we get access to certain grant funds that are available through the state of Oregon's Main Street program. One of their most generous grant offerings is a grant that was approved by the legislature for, this will be the third cycle of it. And the program is designed, it's called the Main Street Revitalization Grant. And last cycle, each Main Street community in the state could apply with a candidate project and receive up to $200,000 toward that project. And so in order to identify a project in our downtown, and this is one of the requirements of the grant as well, I might add, you can't just go and make buddies with your favorite property owner and say, hey, I've got a good way to get you $200,000. It needs to be an open and sort of fair process. So we mailed this out to property owners downtown, told them what the program was, told them what a good candidate project would be, and said, respond to us with a letter that gives us your address, your contact info, a description of the project you have in mind, and your statement that you're willing to co-invest, because that's a requirement of the grant program as well. So we'd be looking to, this revitalization grant has been funded again by the legislature. The grant application is supposed to open in the winter with a due date in the spring. So leading up to that, we need to ideally identify who our candidate project might be. And so we're considering mailing out this letter again with some modifications for this new cycle. Sorry, that was more like 90 seconds.
So what's
So
the,
what
what's
do
the
you need
ask?
from us?
Yeah, you want us to say whether or not that, you know, we approve this going out, that this looks good?
Yeah, and if you have anything on it that you think needs to be modified besides just, you know, dates and that type of stuff, then yeah, just some consensus from the board that you're good with mailing this out and advancing this effort. Connie's got something to say.
Yeah, well, Matt, can you remind everybody, especially me, what this previous grant was used for? Was it one of the facade improvement projects or?
Yeah, the first cycle we applied
Did we-
and didn't get awarded. The second cycle, well, and we learned a lot from that process. The second cycle we applied, and the Mossy Rock building is the one that we got funded for this last time around. We got the $200,000 from the state, and then the property owner put in about $60,000 as well.
Okay, good. Good.
Looks great to me.
Okay, I'll get that out, and
Yeah.
you're not really approving much at this point, just kind of giving a go ahead. And as we do get responses to this letter, then we're going to be looking at probably convening a subcommittee to evaluate those responses and determine what the best candidate is going to be.
So the letter, is it going out
And
from the
previous-
DEC?
The way that we labeled it last time around was, and I'm sorry, Bennett, you can't see this, but on the screen at the top of the letter is the Estacada Urban Renewal Agency, as well as the Downtown Estacada Commission. We sort of double branded it because the DEC has to be the conduit for the grant funding, and they have to be the applicant. Urban Renewal also played a role in the funding. I won't bore you with all that. But anyway, so it's coming out as.
Let me just tell you why I asked. Let me tell you why I asked.
Oh, yeah.
Is because again, our scope is very, very defined and very limited. So the potential applicants would, if we're involved, would only come from that downtown core area that we're responsible for.
That's right.
Okay, so we wouldn't be sending it to businesses that are outside of that boundary.
Yeah, the boundary that we've reviewed in this group is the boundary that the state of Oregon recognizes. So if we brought them a project outside that boundary, they would deem it ineligible.
Okay, perfect. That's all I needed to know.
Okay. Okay, well, I'll get that modified and sent out ASAP.
And when you say sent out, are you just emailing that to us for review, or are you talking about sending that to property owners?
I'm talking about enveloping it and getting it out there.
Okay, yep, that's
Okay.
good. Yeah, we don't need to decide between black pins and blue pins, so.
Okay.
Alrighty, so next section would be public comment, but we don't have any public comment, so I'm just kind of open comment. If there's anything else anyone wants to throw out there to consider for our next meeting, now is your time. And,
Can I ask one
oh,
thing?
Jenny, yeah.
No, go ahead. Go.
Oh, mine is more of a question. I know that you all charged me with this developing sort of some action steps under economic vitality. We didn't really discuss the design and organization / outreach side of things, at least not directly. So assuming that it's doable, I mean, I only have 3 weeks, so it's not a whole ton of time, but if I can flesh out some stuff for those other goals, would you like me to bring that to next meeting as well?
Sounds great.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think all of us would love to get this planning process completed. So I will try and, like I said, flesh some of this stuff out, and then next meeting is just a matter of reviewing it and either making some tweaks or whatever, and then hopefully then we just put it together with a bow and away we go.
That sounds great, Matt. Yeah. Jenny, did you?
I just wanted to give a shout out to you, Kim. I just think that I just want to thank you for taking on the role that you've taken on as a leader of this commission. And I just think that you're doing a really good job of listening well and summarizing well, and also thinking pragmatically about steps. So thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Jenny. And I just thank all of you guys, because everyone has such valuable feedback and everyone has different backgrounds. So it's been great listening to what you guys have to share. So and also thank you for I know time is so valuable. So thank you all for being here. So then with that I guess would lead into just confirming our November 1st meeting at 5 p.m. I'm thinking still sticking with this, and I'm not sure what technology will be available to us at that time. Hopefully we can have a hybrid version available, maybe.
It seems probable, but stay tuned for an absolute confirmation.
Okay, so if hybrid is not available, can I get a vote on whether people prefer in person or this Zoom meeting at this point? So I get a raise of hands or a yes from Bennett if in person is preferred.
I prefer in person, but I have no idea when I'm going to come back to Oregon.
Okay. And okay, Connie says in person, and then hands for virtual.
Taylor says in person.
Taylor says in person. Okay.
Please, in person, I'd prefer.
Okay. Jenny.
Like I said, I'm pretty sure we'll have a hybrid option. The physical aspect of installation was completed, as I understand, today. And it's just a matter of getting trained on it and making sure that all the kinks are worked out before the 1st of the month.
Okay. Great. Yeah, because at this point it sounds like Tanley will not really be able to join us unless we are have a virtual option. So hoping hybrid is up and running come November 1st. So all righty, with that we've concluded at 6:24. Always feel good if we're ahead of time.
Oh, of course.
Good job.
And,
Kim. Good job, everybody.
anyone wants to know, it's Jenny's birthday tomorrow, so we can wish her a big happy birthday.
Aw,
Happy birthday.
birthday.
Not sure if that's secret, but
No, it's fine. Thank you. I'll be
I hope-
40 tomorrow.
oh, hey, Lordy, look who's 40. Yeah. So
And the
Oh my
reason,
God,
the
we're
reason,
just a
the reason Kim
baby.
knows that is because that's why I had a little bit of a scheduling conflict, but I ended up sticking with the whole meeting tonight. I was going to bow out early because I have family in town, but you guys are just so engaging. I had to stay. So
It was a good meeting.
thanks for sticking it out with us. So all righty. Well, thank you
Have a good
everybody for
evening,
your
everybody.
time. Oh, really? Sorry. One last thought was for November 1st meeting, if anyone's going to be late or has to bow out early or can't make it, if you can let me know as far in advance as you can, that would be greatly appreciated. Just so we don't have kind of the mix up that we had last week. And I understand that things come up last minute and it's hard to avoid. But if you do know in advance that you're not going to be able to make it or you might be late, just let me know so we can accommodate. But all righty.
Okay,
Thank you very much,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate your
thank
time.
you. Bye.